Right then, hello and welcome back once again to the channel. I'm here with another shoe review. I'm really excited about this one. It's a black Adidas box, but what have we got? This is the ADIDAS ADIZERO ADIO PRO. Let's get into it. Right, so there's always something really exciting about picking up a highly anticipated and difficult to get hold of racing shoe, and this is the first time that I've tried the ADIZERO ADIO Pro. We'll call it the ADIO Pro for the remainder of the video. It's been an incredibly popular shoe. It's been quite difficult to get hold of, and I managed to pick one up a couple of weeks ago, get it on pre-order, and it arrived earlier this week. So I am over the moon to get it. Like I say, very difficult to get hold of. Sites were selling out within an hour of their drops. And even the Adidas website, you had to sign up for the chance to get to purchase some. So yes, very happy to get my hands on a pair of these. So one of the first things you notice when you open the box is this screaming orange colorway, and it is absolutely awesome. Orange is probably my favorite color anyway, and I think it's set off quite nicely with this yellowy sort of color around the back of the heel there, and in the upper side of the midsole there, you've got it sort of blending down into the orange at the front, which I think just looks really cool. So this is Adidas's racing shoe, and it's their answer to some of the higher end racing carbon plated type shoes out there. So things that have been breaking records and been difficult to get hold of for the past couple of years. Take, for example, the Nike Vaporfly 4%, the Vaporfly Next Percent, the Alphafly Next Percent. This was Adidas's comeback to all of those shoes, and in the past couple of months we've seen some world records being broken in this shoe, and so they've really come to the forefront, and it's great to see some of the other brands starting to really push those higher end shoes and really take a little bit of the spotlight away from Nike, who have sort of dominated for the last year or two in this particular space. I've been really excited to try these out, and I held off on the last drop. So this is probably the third colorway I think that has been out. There's been sort of a white one, there was like a pinky coral type color one, and there was this one. The last drop I held back because they only make these shoes up to a UK 12.5. I'm a UK 13, and so I just wasn't quite prepared to take the plunge and to buy a pair of these. So I have run in Adidas before, and I have run in a 12.5 in the Adidas Boston 7 a couple of years ago, and that was just too small. It used to cause me some issues around the outside of my big toes, and I just ended up not using them after the first couple of runs. I was told by a few people, however, that are also UK 13, that these run quite large and there's enough space in the toe box to hopefully compensate for that half a size down. And so I'm really hoping that I can fit into these and that they remain comfortable during the run, but we shall see. Right, so as per usual, I'm not going to delve into loads of detail about the makeup of the shoe, the materials that are used, the heel drop, that sort of thing. There are many other YouTube reviews out there that get into technical specifications and aspects of the shoe. As always, what I'm interested in is how do they look, how do they feel, and how do they perform during that first run. For this video, it's all about those first impressions, because to me, that's what's important. If a shoe feels great to run in, if it looks great and it performs well, then that's the main thing. So first thing you notice is that it's quite light. I'm not sure how much lighter or heavier than the likes of the Vaporfly Next Percent. So first into the upper then, and around the majority of the foot, you've got this sort of really almost see-through, hashed out mesh around the upper there. It looks like it's going to let plenty of air flow through to the foot, and also obviously breathability and lightweight. Just giving that mesh a little bit of a tug. There is a slight bit of flex in there, but overall it does feel fairly firm. You've got a slight bit of reinforcement around the toe there, but also around the heel here. Just around the collar, there's a little bit of cushioning, but it's fairly minimalist. And around the heel here, where this yellow section is, that's a little bit reinforced and a little bit more rigid than, say, the rest of the shoe. If I just push that down, you can see that it's poking up a little bit there. So hopefully a little bit of lock-in And what that's going to do is probably give you a little bit of security of fit, a bit of a lock-in. Around your Achilles, there's a slight bit of cushioning as well, but overall fairly minimalist. In terms of the tongue, it's very thin. There's a little bit of padding and cushioning just towards the top there. It's attached inside, so it's not going to be wiggling around and flapping about the place and causing it to become uncomfortable during the run, so that looks all good. It's held in place. Moving on to the laces, fairly traditional lacing system, although up this side of the shoe I'm not entirely sure what's going on, so let me bring this in closer to the camera. So on the inside of the foot you've got the eyelets here with a double eyelet at the top for applying the runner's knot, which I'll come on to. And around this side of the shoe, you've got a row of eyelets, but then you've got another row of eyelets there, which it looks as though you could lace into there too. So you've almost got two ways of being able to lace it. I haven't looked into why that is, and if anybody knows why that is, then drop a comment below and let me know. But yes, the runner's knot at the top, so this is something that's fundamental in all of the running shoes that I've got in which I'm able to apply the runner's knot. If you're not familiar with the runner's knot, I'll put a link to a video up here somewhere so that you can check it out. It's a really great way of securing your foot in place without causing that sort of stress pain across the top of the foot that you can get from tying your laces too tight. You can only do it in shoes where there's a double eyelet at the top, but honestly, try it out, it will change your life. So that's sort of covered off the upper. Now let's cover the midsole. So just trying to flex the shoe there, and it is pretty solid. So what you've got running through the midsole is you've got 5 carbon infused energy rods. So compare that to some of the other high-end racing shoes which have got a carbon fiber plate kind of running throughout the midsole of the shoe and basically throughout your foot. So what Adidas have done, instead of having just a single plate, they've put a carbon fiber plate in the heel of the shoe, but towards the front of the foot you've got these 5 carbon infused energy rods that follow the line of the metatarsals, and what that's supposed to do is to give you anatomically driven transition from strike to toe off. So I'm really interested to see if that feels any different from the regular plates, the carbon fiber plates that I'm used to running in those faster shoes. The midsole is made up of Light Strike Pro, which is Adidas's super light foam, just giving it a squeeze, and it doesn't feel as soft and squishy as the Zoom X foam in the higher end Nike shoe. So I'll be interested to see just how that feels underfoot. Now coming on to the outsole, and this is really quite interesting. So there's a lot of exposed Light Strike Pro foam there. And what you have is towards the front of the foot and a little bit around the heel, you've got a very thin layer of rubber. There is no grip at all or tread on that rubber. So if I bring that in closer just so you can see. And I wonder whether that's going to be just really slippy or how that's going to feel, particularly in anything other than super dry conditions. That's really interesting. I have a tendency as well to wear through the lateral side of the foot quite quickly if I don't have a great rubber coverage. I have been working to counteract that, but I'll be interested to see just how quickly that wears through. And also then, the Zoom X foam on the Vaporfly Next Percent just erodes away as soon as it comes in contact with the ground. And where I have worn through here on my Vaporfly, the Zoom X has then just crumbled and fallen apart, and I've just been left with exposed carbon fiber plate. So I wonder how this is going to wear in comparison to that then. But yes, quite a lot of exposed foam there and just no tread on the outsole. So we'll see how that feels. Right, so that's first impressions out of the box. Let's slip them on and see how they feel. And then. It slipped on without too much problem, although the tongue did kind of get stuck on the side of my foot there, but easy enough to rectify that. Just cinch my foot down. I've already put the runner's knot in place. Now the laces are fairly smooth, so I'm wondering if they're going to remain tight and secure during the run. The likes of the Alphafly have got a ribbed lace, as do some of the Saucony shoes, so these laces are really thin and really smooth, but I'm hoping they're not going to cause an issue. Tongue's just got a bit stuck on that side as well. A bit awkward. There we go. I didn't really loosen the shoe up all that much before I put it on, so the tongue's just got stuck on my foot as I was putting it. Right, so again, just cinch that down. I don't want to over tighten the shoes because they're a UK 12.5 rather than a UK 13. I want to keep a bit of space. Right, so, and actually there is probably a thumbnail's width at the front of the shoe there, which is ideal for me. Right, so just coming in from above, you can see I've got a little bit of space around the front of the toe there. The only thing that I'm a little bit apprehensive about is the width of the toe box. So my feet are quite wide anyway, and just here at the top corner, my big toe is just touching against the side. Yes, there's space at the front, but it's the space around the side here that I would have a little bit of concern about, but we'll see how that feels. Right, let's bring it up. Right, so the first thing that you probably notice is the midsole is firm but cushioned, which is a little bit of a weird statement. So it feels more firm than the Zoom X foam, but I am getting a little bit of spring back out, even when I just push my heel down. I'm getting a little bit of spring back up, a little bit of energy return, even just by jumping up and down on the spot. It feels really light. That outsole, yeah, just a bit slippy and there's no grip on there whatsoever. So I wonder how that's going to feel when we get out onto the roads. There's not a great deal of width around about the rear section of the shoe. So there's a slight concern that you could quite easily roll your ankle, albeit with the firmer midsole foam. Hopefully that's not going to be the case and that's going to provide enough stability. But yeah, just because the shoe's slightly wider at the front than it is towards the rear, I'm just getting a slight bit of instability. But I'm a mid to forefoot striker anyway, and so I'm not going to be landing on my heel and rolling over. I'm hopefully going to be landing ahead of the point at which the shoe is that little bit thinner. Now there's no real noticeability of those energy rods. You can't really tell that they're any different to a carbon fibre plate. Underfoot the shoe does feel fairly rigid and fairly firm, and so I'm sure you're going to be getting plenty of energy return from those rods. There's a nice sort of rocker motion. So as you start to transition weight from the middle of the foot towards toe off, just at that point, at the ball of the foot point, you're all of a sudden getting sort of pushed forward a little, and I'm really excited to see how that translates during the run and whether it's going to have that similar feeling to some of the carbon fibre plate shoes of if you imagine standing on a spoon as you transition your weight towards the spoony end of the spoon and the handle of the spoon flicks up and pushes you forward. That's how I'm hoping this is going to feel when we get outside. Right, so I think all that's left for me to do now is to get outside and see how these things perform during the first run. Let's do it. Right, here we go then. Let's do this. And we're off. Right, here we are coming in for kilometre 1 then. And very first impressions off the line. There we are, kilometre 1. So that was 4 minutes and 43, which is faster than I've been running for a while, since I'm still trying to fight back from injury. Now first thing then, so the midsole does feel quite firm underfoot, but you are getting a nice amount of energy return with each step. So that's the first thing that I've noticed. The shoes are comfortable so far. Let's pick it up in another couple of kilometres. Now it's super windy out here today, and for this first few kilometres, it's a tailwind, which might be helping with the pace a little bit. So I don't look forward too much to running back this way in half an hour or so. Now a good thing, I mentioned potential instability during the intro, but I'm not feeling that at all here in terms of thinking that I'm going to roll my ankle or something like that. The platform underneath the ball of the foot feels secure, it feels nice and wide, and surprisingly actually that outsole with no tread whatsoever, I'm not having any issues with that. I have run on a little bit of stony gravel type stuff a little bit further back, and I wasn't really slipping as much as I would have expected to. So perhaps no tread is actually not going to be a problem. So heading in for kilometre 3 now. What used to be a fairly comfortable pace, but as I've been out for 2 months, it's feeling a little bit more laboured this time around than perhaps a couple of months ago. And just coming down the hill there, I was a little bit mindful of my toe starting to press up on that top left edge of my right foot, just where my big toe is.
So just noticing that little bit of slippage towards the front of the shoe. No issues as yet, but I'm wondering how that'll be over longer distances. Just about to take the shoes uphill and see how they fare. In terms of weight, they feel nice and light on the foot, so no issues there. It's a little bit damp out here, yet I've still got a nice amount of grip as I head up the hill. See you at the top. So I'm now coming in towards kilometre 4, and what I'm going to do, something that I haven't done in a couple of months, is I'm going to allow my pace to pick up, not quite race pace, but head towards there, just to see how the shoe manages to accelerate and hold that pace. It's unlikely that I'm going to do it for a full kilometre, but I'll hold it for a little while just to see how they perform. Right, here we are then. Let's put the hammer down. Right, kilometre 4. So, oh, it feels nice to be running at pace. The shoes have picked up the pace really nicely. They're holding it really nicely. I'm getting quite a lot of energy return from that nice firm yet lightweight midsole. I can feel the energy rods doing their thing. I'm getting a little bit of a push forward. The rocker motion, it's all just kind of fitting into place quite nicely. I'll see you towards the end of this interval. Right, so there we have it. So I allowed myself 500 meters there of, it did actually end up being towards race pace, 4 minutes 37 average a kilometre. I didn't want to do the full K just in case my leg decided it wasn't a great idea, but the shoes held their own there, felt really good. I look forward to putting these through their paces, perhaps at a 5K time trial sort of distance. I think they'll do really well. Another thing I've noticed is the sound of the shoe. So if you take something like the Alphafly Next Percent with the Zoom AirPods under the forefoot, with each footstep you're getting kind of a squishy, squeaky air sort of noise, if that makes sense. With the ADIO Pro, you're getting quite a satisfying thwap, thwap, thwap. They feel firm and they sound firm underfoot, but even with the squishiness of Zoom X foam in the Vaporfly, it's just got a slightly different feel to the noise of this shoe. I've turned back towards home now. I'm 5 kilometers in, and that lovely tailwind that we had on the way out has now turned into a headwind for the journey back. So my pace has dropped right back, and what I'm finding is I'm not getting the energy return. Where this shoe really seems to stand out is the more energy you're putting in, the more energy you're getting out. Since I'm not putting a great deal of energy in, they're not giving me much in the way of feedback. You've still got that firmness underfoot, but you're not getting that propulsion with each toe off, wanting to kick you forward into the next step. Right, so here we are then, coming in for the last few meters, and that is it then. Let's slow it down slowly. Right, 10 kilometers in the ADIZERO ADIO Pro, and first impressions are really positive. It felt great to be running in a fast shoe for the first time in quite a while, and actually being able to push the pace a little bit without worrying that my leg was going to explode. So overall, in summary, the shoes felt firm underfoot but responsive, so you're getting a nice bit of energy return from that Lightstrike Pro midsole. It's not overly cushioned, so you're getting quite a firm landing, but you're getting propelled forward into that next toe off, into the next stride. So that's a positive. There's no major difference in terms of how those energy rods, the 5 energy rods, compare, how they feel compared to something like a plated shoe with a one single sheet of plate. There's nothing really noticeable there, in my opinion, but I did feel as though I was getting pushed forward, and so they're obviously doing their job. The upper felt comfortable. I was a little bit worried that the sizing was going to be an issue. I do have a little bit of a feeling of a blister on the inside of my left big toe. I think the problem there, because of that slightly narrow toe box being half a size down to what I'd usually run in, my toes are just rubbing together, and so perhaps I might pair these up with some toe socks in future, which I find prevent my toes from having that issue. Having said that, I haven't really been running a great deal for the past 2 months, and so my feet have softened up a little bit, so perhaps I just need to get some calluses on those toes over the next few weeks. again, really positive first impressions. I'm looking forward to really pushing the pace in these over 5k and 10k distance, just to see how they compare to the likes of the Vaporfly, to the likes of the Alphafly and that sort of thing. I think over longer distances, maybe that firmness underfoot might start to wear you down a little bit, and so maybe this is a shoe for everything up to half marathon distance, but I'd like to test that out and see how they fare. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all of that sort of great stuff, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Yo!